Okay, good afternoon, everyone. Welcome to another Room Business School Nigeria Business Leadership Program Live section. My name is Sarah Ugu, and I'm a career advisor at Room Business School Nigeria campus. Today's section is going to be focused on positioning your agribusiness to attract funding from big and reputable institutions, and we are thrilled to have all of you join us here today. Our speaker is here and who is going to be moderating today's event. I promise everyone that it's going to be very, very insightful and engaging for everyone. So I encourage everyone to contribute, ask questions, participate, make the most use of this section. So right now I'm going to be handing over to the moderator, Mr. Ademola Festus, to kick off the section. Mr. Ademola, good afternoon again and welcome. Hello, Mr. Festus, can you hear me?
Hey, good afternoon, Sarah, and good afternoon, everyone, and good afternoon, most especially to Dr. Charles Inyangbe, who will be giving us a lot of information, a lot of insight about today's topic. As rightly been said, my name is Ademola Festus Eyitayo. I'm from Kogi State. I'm a fellow of the Institute of Agribusiness Management, Nigeria. I'm a full member of the National Institute of Marketing of Nigeria, a full member of Institute of Chartered Economists of Nigeria. And I'm also certified for Six Sigma Green Belt. Interestingly, I have a master's in agribusiness from this particular prestigious school. I'm currently undergoing my master in international agribusiness from, just a moment, please. Yeah, from a leading university here in Nigeria. Presently, I will be talking about Dr. Charles, who is going to be a very special guest. And it is a huge privilege to have him on board here. Dr. Charles is a senior boss. He's someone I respect so much, and I would say is my role model. He's a very big fish in the river, which I would like us to listen attentively this afternoon, because we really have a lot of things to gain from him. I'm going to quickly run the biodata of Dr. Charles. He is a leader in the agribusiness space with vast experience in supporting partnerships for enhancing value chains, food security, livelihood among smallholder farmers across Africa. He enjoys more than 22 years of professional experience in the project planning, designs and management, implementation, reporting, partnerships, building, working on agricultural enterprise development projects, and promoting climate smart agriculture that is environmentally friendly. Dr. Inyangbe recently joined AFA International as the Africa Regional Signature Program Director and Business Development Director for West Africa. In this role, he provides strategic direction and leadership in the design and implementation of all aspects of AFA's technical programming at scale, and with permanent of impact across 11 countries in Africa, while providing oversight to initiatives that will help to grow AFA's funding and partnership within the West Africa, plus the Sahel region through initiatives in agri-food program designs that catalyze widespread change in the agricultural space. Dr. Inyangbe leads and forges regional collaboration, engagement, linkages, relationship, partnerships with government, donor, and other critical strategic regional partners to support the achievement of AFA's vision in Africa of ending poverty and hunger while caring for the health. Proud to join in AFA International, Dr. Charles Inyangbe worked with the United States Agency for International Development, which we all know as USAID, for 4.5 years as the Senior Cooperation Programs in West Africa, with a portfolio covering agriculture, food security / livelihood, trade and investment, Previously, he served as leadership positions with Catholic Relief Services, CRS, where he oversaw program designs, implementation, and investment in agriculture, research, economic strengthening, and livelihood activities for 5 years. As the agriculture value chain specialist with the Chevron Partnership Initiative, which we call PIND, in Niger State, in Niger Delta, Nigeria, Dr. Inyangbe worked to promote linkages among key value chains actors. Before joining PIND, he was the Agribusiness Development Specialist with the International Institute of Tropical Agriculture, Ibadan, from 2009 to 2011, where he managed several agribusiness projects in Nigeria, Benin Republic, and Sierra Leone. Dr. Inyangbe is a certified project management professional and holds a doctorate degree, PhD in agricultural economics. He is originally from Nigeria and speaks English fluently and some other local Nigerian languages. It is a very huge pleasure to have Dr. Inyangbe here this afternoon. He is going to give us a lot of insight into possible areas of funding from big and reputable institutions, which we call BINGO, the big international organizations, the big international agencies, this afternoon. It is a great privilege and a great pleasure to invite Dr. Charles Inyangbe to speak to the microphone this afternoon. Ladies and gentlemen, I hereby welcome Dr. Charles Inyangbe to the microphone. Over to you, sir. Thank you.
All right, Festus, thank you very much. I was wondering whether we were reading thesis when we were introducing me. So, firstly, I want to appreciate Rome Business School for providing me this opportunity. Yesterday, I spoke with Festus, and I think I engaged with him. I said, how come, I said, Festus, why did you give my name for this? Why did you provide my name to Sarah for this? And he said he didn't do that. So I was wondering, I think after this meeting, I will engage with Sarah on a separate note to find out how Sarah managed to fish me out of from the sea. So I think this is the second time I will be speaking under these auspices of Rome Business School. So it's my pleasure to be here, and I want to welcome everyone here. And please permit me to say that I'm also willing to learn from you. We are all learning. The space is very big. The ecosystem is wide. So I will provide what I think I know, the little I know, and through the question you will be asking. And if I also have any question, I will also ask you. So please, let's make this to be very interactive. It is not a lecture section. It is an interactive session. So just like Sarah said, we will be looking very briefly in the next 30 to 40 minutes how we can position agribusiness to attract funding from reputable institutions. As you see, agriculture is one of the most delicate sectors that one can ever invest in. Let me give you a very simple analogy. When I moved to my new house in Abuja, I had a space where I can do backyard poultry. So I ventured into backyard poultry where I will raise birds that can lay eggs for me so that we will not be buying eggs in my house. But after 1 year, I had to pull out because of the cost of production. So agriculture is a very risky business. And if you are expecting that the cost of production will go down as we move through the period, I think we are just deceiving ourselves. The cost of production will keep rising. So the earlier we venture into agribusiness, the better for us. So I will be sharing about 40 slides thereabouts today. And after this slide, we'll open it up for more of interaction, questions, answers, and all that. So my name is Charles Inyangbe, and I currently work with HEFA International as the signature program director, just like Festus said, and I cover about 9 countries in Africa. I cover Nigeria, Senegal, Zambia, Malawi, and then a lot in the East Africa, Ethiopia, Kenya, Uganda, Rwanda, and Tanzania. So those are some of the countries that I covered. Then I'm also exploring opportunity on how we can move down to the Sahel, because one of the missions or the vision of FI is to eliminate hunger and poverty in a very sustainable way while caring for the earth. And we have come to argue that we can't do that without touching base with the Sahel region. Because when you look at poverty across the globe, the highest poverty rate is domesticated in the Sahel region. And as you know, Nigeria is one of the Sahel region, especially the northern part of the Sahel. The likes of Borno, Sokoto, and all that, they are part of the Sahel and all that. So we are trying to see how we can also extend our program there. Anyway, this is not a forum to talk about what we do at HEFA. We want to talk about how to attract finance to agribusinesses. So as a way of starting, I will just introduce by giving some background. Sorry, let me see how I can minimize this. So I will just give some background about the financial ecosystem in Nigeria. Like you can see in the slide, accessing finance is very critical to the growth of agribusinesses. There's no way agribusiness will grow without unlocking the constraints that have limited entrepreneurs that are in the agribusiness space. There's no way they can move out of that cycle without unlocking all those opportunities that have been locked down as a result of inability for us to access finance in the ecosystem. So that is one critical area that we must look at. Then again, if we must shift from the very way we be farming, subsistence farming, to commercial agriculture, then you must talk about access to finance. For example, if you want to commercialize from 1 to 3 hectares to about 20, 50 hectares, you just have to talk about access to finance. And a lot of policies that will unlock that access to finance, we need to start exploring that opportunity, especially in the wake of this new administration where they declare state of emergency on food security. So access to finance is very critical. I've been listening every morning, especially on channels, to see how people are reacting to the situation of this state of emergency, declaring state of emergency on food security in Nigeria. I've never heard of anyone talking about access to finance. People keep talking about input, talking about agricultural zone and all that, but nobody's talking about access to finance, which is a very critical element. If you look, and nobody is looking at policies that will correct the inefficiencies in the system that we've experienced over the past years. As you know, you have seen a lot of packages, policies that were developed by the past administration, the anchor borrower scheme, the cards, and all that. They never yielded the intended results. So we need to start looking at policy that will make access to finance to be very friendly for smallholder farmers, for agribusinesses, for MSMEs, and the likes. If you go, there was a time when I visited Netherlands, and I went for a course at Wageningen University for a few months, and I decided to say, let me spend 1 week to understudy the dairy sector in Netherlands. It will amaze you that the policies that have been set aside for Netherlands can favor the production of milk. Today, Netherlands, for every 3 liters of milk that they produce, they only consume 1 liter, and they export 2 liters. They are not even, I don't think Netherlands is struggling on oil, crude oil, and all that, the way we are killing ourselves over crude oil, and the way we are smuggling crude oil from the country to different parts of the world. Netherlands with only dairy sector alone, they can survive. Like I mentioned, out of every 3 liters of milk that is produced in Netherlands, they only need 1 liter to serve the country. The other 2 liters they are exported for foreign exchange. And that is why Netherlands is surviving today. So there are policies that they put in place that favor and that is attracting finances into the dairy sector in Netherlands. And it has also given birth to a new policy, which they call family farms. If you go to Netherlands, every family, it is compulsory that one of your children must be a part of your family farm to enhance sustainability. That's the way that we continue to ensure that the dairy sector is maintained. So we need to start looking at policy that we make access to finance to be friendly to our agribusinesses. That is number one. Then the third bullet point that I've just put here is that financial institutions are very reluctant to accept the risks prevalent in the agricultural sector. Now, don't blame them too much. Financial institutions, they have a lot of bucket of funding that is available for lending to agribusinesses. But unfortunately for them, I decided to use the word unfortunately for them, it is very risky for them to be able to lend because the sector is very dynamic. The financial institutions are yet to understand the rudiments around the agribusiness space. They don't have that skills. And that's why they prefer to lend to manufacturing sector. They prefer to lend to other sectors that are not agro-related. Even if it's going to be agro-related, they prefer to lend to the end side of the equation of the overall value chain. They prefer to lend to marketing. Even processing is risky for them. So these are constraints that are limited, that have put all the agribusinesses into a box where they are unable to explore their potential. So if financial sector must play a very good role, they need to understand the sector very well, understand the risk, understand the opportunities, and see how they can drive growth in the agricultural sector. So that is a way of introducing. So I want to shock you. I know Festus, I'm sure Festus knows me. I'm a data person. Whenever I speak with data. So if you see the sector today, the demand for finance in agriculture or to support agribusiness in Nigeria, as of last year, 2022 December, it stood at about $200 billion. That's what we need to finance agriculture and agribusiness. $200 billion is what is needed. So even in the wake of these food insecurity issues that the new government is looking at, which is good for all of us, which is good for me in particular, we need to start. So how do we unlock $200 billion into the sector? It's a question that you and I will need to answer in this forum. So that is what is needed in the sector. However, let's look at what is the current landscape. Where are we as of today? The total supply of agricultural finance as of today is about $4 billion. And like I said, what we need is $200 billion. As at last year when this was completed, that stood at about 84 trillion naira. That is what we need annually to support agriculture. But what we currently have as supply into the sector is just about $4 billion. So you and I, we cannot survive in this sector. And again, in addition to the $4 billion, those of us that are self-financing our businesses is even outweigh what is available in the financial sector. $15 billion has been put together by entrepreneurs from their savings to be able to support agribusiness growth in Nigeria. So what does that mean? There is a supply-demand gap in the area of agricultural finance. We need, the gap stood at about 91%. So 91% of what we need is deficient. And we need to find a way to make this to be available. Otherwise, we will continue to rigmarole and we'll continue to roll this. I challenge a lot of people when we keep saying, they keep quoting data. 70% of Nigerian populations are involved in agriculture. That was what I was told when I was in my elementary school. So we need to change the dynamic. It has not changed over years. So we need to change it. And as you can see today, agriculture only represents 5% of the total loans that is being disbursed by financial institutions. Please permit me to say at this moment, when I say financial institutions, including microfinance, investors, lenders, or anything that has to do with financial institutions, only 5% of all the total loans that have gone out goes to agriculture, which means the other 95%, basically manufacturing is taking more of these. So this is a serious problem in the country. And we must find a way to unlock. If we must create jobs, if we must make people to be self-sustaining, then these are areas we need to tackle. Then let's look at the demand for finance when it relates to agribusinesses. Agribusiness entrepreneurs, we need finances for just three areas. One, short-term financing, and that is basically for inputs. When I say input, for example, seed, mechanization, everything that you need to put into the farm before harvest, those are input, labor, and all that. So that is one of the areas where finance is needed, and this is basically applicable to smallholder farmers. Then the second area is for MSMEs. And again, let me say, if you must grow agriculture, if you must grow agribusiness in Nigeria, we have to concentrate on MSMEs. When I was with USAID, I designed a program which is called Feed the Future Nigeria Agricultural Extension and Advisory Services. And I also designed another program which is called Feed the Future Nigeria Agribusiness Investment. And the focus of these two activity or these two projects was to focus on strengthening and building the capacity of MSMEs to be able to operate in the space, building the capacity of the MSMEs to be able to access finance, because the smallholder farmers do not have the capacity and the ability and the how would I put it? They don't look attractive to the financial institutions. So for us to be able to close that gap, so we saw the need to build or capacitate the MSMEs who have the capacity to be able to present very good business plans, who have the capacity to be able to present a very good value proposition to financial institutions. So this is an area that we need to explore. And this is the second bucket where agri-finance is needed for medium to long-term financing to acquire assets. For example, smallholder farmers will find it difficult to be able to access tractor, but the MSMEs can purchase tractor that can serve thousands of smallholder farmers. So that is another area where we need agribusiness financing. Then the last one is the large multinationals. When we talk of the multinational, the likes of Olam of this world, the likes of Wakot in Kebbi State. Wakot is a large processing factory that is into rice processing in Kebbi State. So the likes of Olam, the like of Wakot, all these big multinational companies, they also need agribusiness finance to support short-term working capital. There is need for them to access finance so they can resolve some immediate short-term capital. Short-term capital could be doing backward integration to support smallholder farmers so that smallholder farmers will be able to have access to quality input, because the large multinationals, even the MSMEs, cannot survive without the smallholder farmers, and the smallholder farmers cannot survive without the MSMEs and the large multinationals. So they complement each other, and so because of that, we must find a way to ensure that we're able to open up finances to large and multinational companies and MSMEs. They can obtain these finances and work backward, which is what we call backward integration, to support smallholder farmers, procure all the needed input that they need, so that we're able to maintain an effective and efficient contract farming between the large multinationals and the smallholder farmers. So these are the three buckets where demand for finance is very needed at this moment. So what are some of the challenges that is making those three buckets not to work out in the way it should work? Like I mentioned earlier before, the risk factor is a major problem. Then the financial sector may not be sophisticated enough in developing countries. It is not. And again, this is where digitalization is becoming a very prominent intervention that can support the unlocking of this access to finance by smallholder farmers. Our financial sector is not very sophisticated, and that's why you keep having high interest rates. You go to the bank, you borrow just few dollars or few nairas, and the money we use to service the interest rate will almost be equal to the amount that you need for your farm. So it's difficult to break even when you collect loans from the financial institution to service what you need. So digitalization will have a role to play here. Then financial institutions, they're also very reluctant. I mentioned that before. And again, these are some of the things we need to put in place or resolve for this sector to be very attractive. So what is the way forward, and what are some of the returns and impacts? How do we do this? How do we do this? The informal community schemes, like the one I just explained, the outgrower scheme, where the MSMEs will be serving as aggregators or as input credit service providers, is one of the feasible solutions that we can use. We have done this. I've experimented this in several projects that I've designed and I've implemented, and I can vehemently say that it is working. It is working. So we need to come up with informal community scheme where the MSMEs, who are crucial in the market system, because until we understand the dynamics of the entire market system, we will not be able to unlock these opportunities. So let's see the potentials and the opportunities that we can use, that MSMEs can play to be able to serve as aggregators, input dealers, or input credit service providers to smallholder farmers or to the community at the community level. Then again, value chain financing can build on existing structure to reach commercially viable smallholder farmers. Again, this can potentially be achieved in partnership with microfinance and fintech. And that was what I told you about digitalization. Digital agriculture, digital financing is becoming a very prominent role. Again, we also have to look at liquidity issues in the bank, the interest rate, the incentives to invest in agribusiness. So to do this, we have to come up with knowledge and tools for boosting agribusiness and SME investing that can support the growth of this sector. Again, we also have to look at funds as an indirect investment vehicle that can also serve as a solution for those banks who are not able to build agribusiness enterprises. Like I mentioned before, some of these financial institutions, most of the desk officers, it is only of recent that you are beginning to see some agri-economists or agribusiness specialists serving as desk officers. Before now, you see a sociologist sitting down as a desk officer. There's nothing you can tell that sociologist that will enable him or her to believe that these business plans from these entrepreneurs or these agribusiness special or these firms, there's nothing you can tell that sociologist that will make him or her to believe that this business plan is profitable. So we have to be putting the right person in the right places and all that. So opportunities in the fintech, if you go to Kenya, Kenya is one of the leading countries in Africa when it comes to fintech. They are playing a major role. Fintech and agri-tech can reduce the risk. And if you see that, for example, what we are currently doing in Nigeria now, we are, agricultural insurance is one way of financing agriculture. A lot of people just think when you talk of agri-finance, it's just money. No, when you insure your farms, you can see that it's a way of you having access to finance. For example, we insured so many farmers as under Heifer International in Nigeria, especially in Benue and Nasarawa State, rice farmers. And last year, there was serious devastation when it comes to rice. And they were able to get back their money because their farms were insured. And to do that, we work with Pula. And Pula has this digitalization system where they are able to map farm and able to identify the yield. And that's what we call Area Yield Index Insurance Program, where we now use, farmers are now confident to be able to invest in insurance programs. So come today, you see that farmers are now embracing insurance scheme. I went to the field very recently in Nasarawa State, and I was asking one farmer, why do you prefer insurance? He said, because if I experience loss, then I will get my premium being paid back. I said, do you have medical insurance? And he said, no. He doesn't have medical insurance, but he has an agricultural insurance scheme that is working well for him. So those are some of the ways to go. Then again, if you combine all those interventions, if we find a way to put these interventions together, this is what modeling based on data, this is what it can generate. One, it can generate additional supply of finance of about $73 billion by 2030. Remember, at the beginning, I mentioned to you that what we need is about $200 billion. So if we combine all these interventions that I've just mentioned above, and all other things being equal, ceteris paribus, those interventions have the propensity to be able to generate additional $73 billion into the agricultural sector by 2030. In addition to that, it has the potential to improve the livelihood of about 50 million people. And we are just currently about 200 million. So you can see what opening access to finance can do. It can empower and it can improve the livelihood of about 50 million people. And we are talking of removing people out of poverty. Again, it can enable the production of additional 125 million metric tons of food. This is the potential impact of unlocking access to finance can bring. And again, lastly, another point we put there is that it can contribute about 35 trillion naira to GDP. So you can see the role, what this sector, this subsector in the agri space, the kind of impact and potential it has when we start doing the right thing and start putting the right things in the right place. Anyway, while all these combined intervention can reduce finance, it can reduce finance gaps significantly, but this is insufficient to close the finance. Like I said, it can only supply what we need by bringing additional $73 billion on the table, which means we still have about more than $120 billion in deficit that we still need. So it's still not sufficient, but these are some potential interventions that can create opportunity for all of us. So banks because that is not sufficient enough, those interventions, because they are not sufficient enough, banks and fintech have the potential to contribute to the largest supply of the financial sector. Like I mentioned to you, we've gotten some remarkable data how some of these things is transforming the agricultural sector in Kenya. Then the informal scheme and the value chain that I mentioned earlier before can have the largest impact on livelihood and food security in the country. So we have to start concentrating on the middlemen, build their capacity to be able to do the right thing, because once they do the right thing, they will expand their production capacity. When you expand your production capacity, then what that means is that more people will leave the urban area and go back to the rural area. Because one of the reasons why most youth are running away from the rural area is because they don't see opportunity in agriculture. How do you expect a youth, especially let me use cassava as a very classical example that has a 3-year pricing cycle. Cassava, the price will go up today and a lot of people will run to the farm. When they run to the farm, they produce, there's a glut. Why is there a glut? Because the people, the middlemen, the MSMEs, the manufacturing, they are not able to build their capacity in such a way that they are able to absorb all the glut in the market. So that is discouraging enough. So then okay, I've mentioned that. Then the next slide is looking at some of the funding sources. I know some of you might be entrepreneurs. You might be asking, where can I get sources of funding? This is not new to us. We all know where to get sources of funding. It's the bottlenecks that we need to be cracking. One of the ways you can get sources of funding is the commercial banks. And like I said, it's basically, they are there, but it's unaffordable to us because the interest rate is very high. Microfinance institutions, they are also there. But I have done a study on microfinance institutions in Nigeria. And one of the segments where they can fund is trading, buying and selling, because they can easily return. They can pay back within a week, within 2 weeks. Unlike when you want to invest in agriculture, where it will take you 1 year, 6 months for you to repay back. Most microfinance institutions, they are not interested in that. They are interested in sector where they will lend today. Within 1 month, you started paying back. So it's an issue. Then bank of industry is an area where we should be concentrating on. But in Nigeria, unfortunately, our bank of industry is not very prominent the way it should be. This is an area where all the MSMEs and the multinationals should be going to. Unfortunately, again, the interest rate is high. As of last year, it stood at about between 8 to 14%. And I hope with the current administration trying to see how they can bring down the interest rate, I hope this will also affect the sector very positively. Bank of industry, again, just like Bank of Agriculture, is also another area. The good thing about for Bank of Industry is that the interest rate is at a single-digit interest, is single-digit. But the bottleneck that is involved in assessing this is an issue we also need to look at. So let me expose all of us to some of the principles to attract agribusiness finances. I remember when I worked with what is the name of this organization? African Leadership Forum in Lagos. There was a project that was funded by Central Bank of Nigeria. It's called Entrepreneurship Development Project. And my role was to review business plans. Every day I was reviewing business plans. You even see some big MSMEs coming with business plans that are not attractive. When you do all the mathematics in the business plan, when you do all the internal rate of return, when you do your net present values, when you do your B and L and you compare with your benefit cost ratio, at the end of the day, when you subject all these figures into viability analysis, it's not attractive to the bank to fund. So one of the principles is that, one, you must understand the business venture that you are about to enter. Some of us do not understand the business environment, but because Mr. A is breaking even, you also want to go into the business. I'm telling you, when you go into a business or an opportunity where you don't have a very good understanding of that opportunity, your business plan will not be very attractive, will not be viable. Then secondly, you must produce an expected cash flow for the business. A cash flow, if you are going to an agribusiness, my recommendation as an agricultural economist is that you should project a business cash flow of a minimum of 5 years. But you see people presenting a cash flow. They want to make the cash flow to be as long as 5 years. So instead of just saying, you look at the cash flow is for 2 years, but they will do it in months. They do it for 24 months. Whether you do it for 24 months or you do it for weeks, it's still 2 years. it will be difficult for you to break even at that point. So you must present a cash flow analysis for a minimum of 5 years, and you must subject your cash flow to different scenarios. Scenario A, scenario B, scenario C. Then thirdly, you must determine the cost of borrowing. You don't just borrow because it is necessary to borrow. Yes, I'm an advocate that you should go for loan, but most times I don't even support loans. You need most businesses that have survived from my own personal analysis. This is not empirical. Most businesses that have survived in Nigeria, especially agribusinesses, they started with their own personal capital. So it's always good to start with your personal capital, grow your capital before you start borrowing. And again, like I said, make sure you assess the cost of borrowing before you borrow. Then look at various funding options. There are different funding options. There are grants. These days, there are a lot of grants. A lot of people are getting grants. Even donor agencies, multilateral agencies, bilateral agencies, there are different grant opportunities. If you go to web, you will be amazed at different grants. But you just need to produce an innovative technology that you can use to convince whoever is managing that grant to be able to disburse that grant to you. I remember when I was in USAID during COVID, when COVID distorted the entire market system, we come up with grant and we're able to fund about 32 agribusinesses, small scale, youth-led and medium scale. We funded them. The youth got about $75,000 and the middle stage, they got about $150,000. Those grants. Grant means you are not paying back, it's a grant, but they give you some deliverables. And most of these businesses, they are doing well today. So there are grant opportunity everywhere, in country and outside the country. There's one of my colleagues, one of my partners in all this type of work that we do, who has just gone for an interview to secure a grant from FX. And he may be able to get that grant. If he's able to get a grant of about $20,000 and plug it to the business, it's as good as getting loans. So there are various options which we must consider. Then always seek for the information for something for the develop a very good business plan. Please always develop a very good and realistic business plan. Don't develop a business plan to attract funding. Don't develop a business plan to make it attractive to the financial institution. Develop a realistic business plan. When you use empirical evidence to develop your business plan, you will see the scorecards. You will be able to determine at the scale you want to operate, whether it is profitable or not. At that stage, you can make a decision to self-finance or to use loans. So these are some of the things you must look at, and always engage with financial institutions. Like I said, financial institutions, they are target, they are there to release loans, but it is our ability to convince them that will determine how well we are able to unlock those opportunities. So I will stop here. Thank you very much for listening, and I would like to hear from you, and I would also like to learn from you. Thank you, and over to you, Festus.
Thank you very much, Doctor, for this wonderful presentation. Telling you, I've had a lot of insight into funding agribusiness, especially within Africa. And you've actually pointed to all the directions that we actually need to consider, especially when it comes to seeking funding. I'm going to say this, I think the Nigeria government has really failed the smallholder farmers, or even farmers as it were, in terms of providing the enabling environment, in terms of providing funding. You discovered when the funds are made available, it is the white farmers, quote and unquote, that have access to this funding. And you begin to ask yourself, how come the farmers that are actually in need of these funds are not getting them? This is the situation we find ourselves. And under what Doctor said in terms of, he wouldn't even encourage farmers to go for loan. To me, I believe so much in that principle. And there is this particular My Agro, I think they're currently in Mali and Senegal, where they do pool of funds from farmers, which they call Village Savings and Loans Association, VSLA, where they come up together with loans, with their daily contributions, and at the end of the beginning of the planting season, they get the money to buy their inputs, they get their equipment in terms of what they need to do for farming. You agree with me that most of the MFIs we have, not even only in Nigeria, I remember there is a social enterprise MFI in Mali, I think one also in Ghana. I wouldn't want to mention their name. In terms of the percentage of their loan, someone was telling me is as high as 35%. Here in Nigeria, when I was working with a particular project in Kano, we approached a particular MFI for access to loan for smallholder farmers, and then the rate was just so much, we couldn't go for it. The NASA Anchor scheme of the Central Bank of Nigeria are also doing the same thing. Fine, they're actually trying in terms of making sure farmers have access to, farmers have access to loan. But then in terms of the requirement, banks will tell you, go and bring the death certificates of your great-grandfathers. And at the end of the day, farmers get discouraged from actually accessing this fund, which has really bring farmers back into the status quo where they used to be. Then equally mentioned about the principles to attract agribusiness funding, the cash flow, it must be at least minimum of 5 years. These are what the bingos actually wants to look at in terms of making sure you're up and doing, and you're not just cooking a book. Then you must equally subject it to different scenarios. The business plan also must be a realistic business plan. Thank you very much, Dr. Charles. We really appreciate your coming around this afternoon, and I'm going to be the microphone open for people to ask their questions. I was thinking we could possibly see questions on the chat box, but I'm not really sure if we have one. But if you have any question, you can just raise your hand. Then I'm going to call you, then you can speak to the microphone. Thank you very much, and over.
So maybe first off, you can go through the participants and see those whose hands are raised.
Yeah. Some people's hands are raised already, Mr.
Yes.
Oh, sorry, please let me. I'm not. Just a moment. I'm not.
There are 4 hands that are raised.
That are raised. I'm yet to see those hands.
Desmond, Sadiq, and Bashir.
Okay, Desmond, can you talk to us, please? You can ask your questions. Desmond, are you there? If you are talking, you need to. Okay, Olanyika, can you talk to us, please?
I think
Olanyika, Olanyika, go ahead, please. Go ahead with your question.
Can you hear me, sir?
Yes, please, we can.
All right. I want to appreciate Doctor for the presentation. In fact, I'm really impressed. I was thinking that if I have opportunity of recommending, I would have recommended you to our president, because we really need solution to the agribusiness. So my question is this. That's the truth, because I'm really fascinated with your presentation. So I want to know your involvement with the state government, because this particular agribusiness that we are discussing today is very vital. Personally, I love to go into agribusiness and all that. I work with Leadway Assurance, and we have a Greek insurance department. So we work with farmers and we know how it is. I want to ask, what is your involvement with the state government in effectively people like you to be able to advise them on this issue? Because when we, organizations like yours usually work with own land. It's the state government that own land, and the state government that execute most of these things. So I want to know your perspective as regards that. Then on an individual basis, I will equally want to know how, is there any forum for, apart from those that are already in the farming, those that are planning to go into this industry, what is the forum for them to be able to engage people like you so that there can be advice for people like them? So that those are my few questions for now.
Thank you very much, Olayinka. I was struggling to hear you, but I think I got what you said. So, in terms of involvement with the state government, yes, I'm going to share our experience as from HEFA International. We don't just engage with federal government alone. In fact, one of our cardinal objectives at HEFA, if you must reduce poverty, there's what we call sustainable locally led development. You must start from the grassroots, not from the federal government, not even from the state government, not even from the local government. You start from the community. It is at the community you will understand what are the systemic constraints that has been affecting the entire market system for a particular value chain. So we work with state government, we work with local government, we work with federal government. I'm going to use a typical example from Edo State. If anybody from Edo State is here, I'm sure you will attest to this. Now we are trying to revolutionize and transform the poultry sector in Edo State. How are we doing that? We engaged with Amo Farms. Amo Farm is one of the big players in the poultry sector in West Africa, if not Africa. They have come up with a new hybrid that is in between broilers and layers, and it is called Noelas. Noelas is very resilient breed of chicken that can survive all sorts of hazards. You can release them to play within the compounds. You can release them to scavenge everywhere because they are very resilient. They are dual purpose. They can serve for meat, which is normal chicken. Then they can also serve for egg production. So to do that, we decided to engage with Amo Farms to see how we can bring this technology into some of the states where we work. And we started engaging with state government, and we got good response from Edo State government. Edo State government provided an enabling environment by working with the private sector. You see, we need to start moving away from all this donor money, donor funded. It's good, but if it is not done in a system that is sustainable, the donor will keep funding and there will be no results. What I'm telling you now is not donor funded. It's just our engagement with Amo Farms. We develop a business case for Amo Farms. Open the opportunities for Amo Farms to see. For example, most of the birds that are produced, most of the chicken that are produced in Edo State, not just Edo State, Edo, Delta, even up to River State, there is no single processing factory that can process the birds. And that has limited the competitiveness of the poultry sector in Nigeria. For example, most poultry farmers, they are always active between October and December because they know when they raise their broilers from October, November, they will sell in December. That's all. That kind of farmers cannot break out of this vicious cycle of poverty. There should be market all year round. So we saw that opportunities. Amo Farms, there's a factory they have around West, either in or your state or whatever. So most of the farmers in Edo State, when they raise their bed, they will have to transport this bed to the West to go and process. You can't do that with this West subsidy removal. They can't do that again. So we presented that business case and that picture to Amo Farms, and Amo saw a huge opportunity there. As I speak to you, Amo Farm is almost completing a large-scale processing factory that can process 10,000 beds every day. They will process and sell to all these fast food and all these fast food, all these restaurants, all these supermarkets, they process and just sell to them. So there's a huge market for it. Especially yesterday, I was having a conversation with someone from Holland, and I was telling the person that the dietary changes that is going on globally will make the demand for fish and for poultry to continue to increase in an astronomical progression. Because most people are now running away from beef, and everybody is now beginning to embrace poultry and animals-rich source protein, which is basically from chicken and from aquaculture. So we have engaged with government, and the government is very proactive, and the government has provided an enabling environment. As we speak, the government is currently enrolling, in collaboration with HEFA, small-scale poultry farmers in Edo State. Because once the factory is launched, hopefully towards the end of November, we need to start looking for how to feed the factory with 10,000 beds in a day. So that is one of the ways we are working with government. And the government is also providing an enabling environment to see how they can provide input credit to smallholder farmers. What I mean by input credit, they can get the day-old chicks from ABO or from other source of other actors in the space, so that they can also get access to medications, vaccines. Then the only thing that EFA will be doing is to provide trainings that will enable them to supply the market. So we are working with state government, not just only the federal government. Thank you very much, Olaika. And for the second question, in any forms, I'll put my contact there. I think Sarah and Festus, they also have my contact. If there's any way we can talk together, I'm open to talking to you so that we can see how we can grow this. This sector must grow. This sector must be competitive. We must become like Netherlands. We can't continue to waste our resources. Nigeria is so much blessed. When I was doing my IT in my school days, they told me, Gum Arabic, with Gum Arabic alone in the north, we can transform this country. With cassava alone, we can transform this country. It still baffles me. When I was with USAID, I advocated that there should not be any intervention in cassava sector again. When Obasanjo was in power, there was a huge policy, there was a huge proclamation to see how we can support the cassava industry, how we can transform it. But where are we on it? But we are still where we are. So you and I, like, need to work together to make this sector to grow. Thank you very much, Anova.
Thank you very much, Dr. Sadiq Omalewa. Please make your question very snappy. We have less than 10 minutes to end this section. Thank you very much, Omalewa. Omalewa, are you there?
Okay.
All
okay,
right.
Thank you very much. Sorry, I just submitted me. Thank you, Doctor, for a very wonderful session. Please, I have two questions. You talked about BOI giving allowing people or supporting farmers. I am a farmer and I deal in poultry farming, broiler precisely, and we operate around a year, aboika. So it was between 6-7 weeks, we raise and we sell. So I approached BOI for an expansion. At least my farm sits on the 2 acres of land. We do up to about 2,000 per cycle, which is 6-7 weeks. But they never even gave me an opportunity to present anything. The first question they asked, where is my farm? I said, oh, Ogun State. I stay in Lagos. They said, oh, it has to be in Lagos. I said, where is the space in Lagos to do farming? That's not possible. They don't even give opportunity for me to present anything, let alone having access or discuss with them so I can expand or do all that thing that I need to do. Even the processing you're talking about, we actually plan that, okay, we can start processing, we produce, we process, and we'll be able to sell them, when we'll be able to do better. That is one. Then number two, the first person that asked question talked about insurance. So I want to find out, insurance company, do they actually insure livestock farming? Because we've been having setback in this area, though we don't have any issue as far what we are doing, or rather whatever it is. So because of the what is it called? The tenure of the operation, 6 weeks, 7 weeks we sell, 6 weeks, 7 weeks we sell. So, but I'm actually thinking the way of ensuring my farm, but we've been encountering setback. And the last, if I drop the mic, or what you just explained to us about how you engage a partner in Edo State. I don't know if that can happen around Ogun State. We have so many farmers. We have an association, we have many there, but this challenge of funding, market, preservation, and what have you, setting a lot of people back. Thank you.
Okay, excellent. Thank you very much, Sadiq. I'm very sorry to hear about your deals with BOI, but my encouragement to you is that don't give up. Keep. I'm sure you just met the wrong person. You just engaged with the wrong person at that time. So go and do a thorough visibility study. You must, like I said, you must put in some personal investment. Engage good economists, engage good consultants to do thorough visibility study, and let them produce a very good business plan to you. Use that one to go and engage. Probably one of the reasons why the person that told you that your business must be illegal is not correct. There are a lot of businesses, agro businesses that have benefited from Bank of Industry, and they are not illegal. Some of them are even in Nasarawa. Some of them are in Ogun State. I've listened. You know, there's this BOI documentary almost every day on channels. You will see that they come from different states. So please try and prepare a very good plan and use that one to engage with them. In one day, we definitely click. I know the ease of doing business in Nigeria is difficult. It's very difficult. In fact, we're about 155 out of about 183. When it comes to the ease of doing business ranking, we're about 155 out of 183. So we still have a long way to go. So I'm sorry to hear that. I will encourage you to keep engaging. As for insurance can insure anything. They can insure. It's just that the agri sector, agricultural insurance has not been working in Nigeria. We are just beginning to see some successes. And like I mentioned to you in my presentation, we have recorded some remarkable successes in the rice value chain, insuring farmers, and we saw results. So insurance company, I think the first person that asked, who said he worked with Leadway Insurance. Go and ask Leadway. We are working with Leadway. Leadway is one of the insurance companies that we are working with in collaboration with Pula and EFA to pilot insurance scheme in Nigeria, and it is already working. So they can insure all kinds of things. We just need to develop a proof of concept and see that it is working. The insurance company will dive into it. Don't also forget that the insurance companies, they are not philanthropic, they are not donors. They are also there to make profit. Anything that is not profitable to them, they will not venture into it. We need to understand the space. And that was what I mentioned earlier, that understanding the space is very critical. Thank you very much.
All right.
Thanks so much. Yeah, thanks so much. Desmond. Yeah, Desmond, I requested you to ask a question. I'm not sure if you are ready now. If you are, maybe you can go ahead. Desmond.
Okay, can you hear me now?
Yes, please.
Okay, so I was not unmuted thing, so that's why. Thank you very much, Dr. Charles. It's actually nice hearing from you and learning from you as always. So for me, what is the role of people like NISAL in guaranteeing agriculture? We know that agriculture has the risk. There's no two ways about it. Our agribusiness has the risk, but there was a need to set up a NISAL PLC to help minimize that risk in terms of guarantee. And what is that role that can be leveraged on? Because I know with where you are, you can actually have those conversations. Because I know from the way they are set up, they are supposed to give guarantee to about 75% of maybe collaterals that people are supposed to bring into the system to get funding. So what is HIFA doing in terms of having that conversation to see how NISAL PSC can work better for the Nigerian farmers or agribusiness?
Excellent. Thank you very much, Desmond. Desmond is my very good friend. In fact, when he told me he was coming, that was why I asked Festus, why did you present my name? Desmond, it's good to see you again. Yes, NISA, all other things being equal, is a good initiative. But we all heard about the corruption in the sector, how a lot of funding we are missing here and there. This is not the forum to discuss that. But that's why I said, with all other things be equal, NISA is there to guarantee because of the risk that is prevalent in the sector. So that was why NISA was set up. So my recommendation to federal government is to do a complete overhauling of NISA. Federal government need to sit down, need to organize stakeholders workshop with critical stakeholders in the sector to do a SWOT analysis or to do a lesson learned documentation of NISA. When NISA came, everybody was embracing NISA. NISA was, if you look at the objective of NISA, it is a credit guarantee scheme. It was supposed to more or less replace the agricultural credit guarantee scheme that was set up way back. But because of the inefficiency in the system, we couldn't see the light of the day. Thank you, Desmond, for mentioning this. Unfortunately, I've never thought of this with EFA. So in the coming weeks, I'm going to engage with NISA to see how we can do some work together so that NISA can be, we can work with NISA to pilot an efficient way of an efficient system where NISA can guarantee farmers, because there has to be an anchor. And one of the principles of our program design at EFA is that any project that is designed without an anchor private sector partner, it is not a project. Because right from the word go, we must design a project that is sustainable. So if I'm designing a project, the first question I will ask, not just in Nigeria, across Africa, who is the private sector that will drive this process? So I'm happy you raised this. We've not really engaged NISA effectively, but you just whet my appetite. That was why I mentioned earlier. It's an opportunity for me to also learn. So we engage, and please keep reminding me, Despot, if I review to find out whether I'm engaging NISA appropriately. So, like you said, NISA is a good system. But what we just need to do is to do a complete overhauling of the system and see how we can learn from what has worked well, what did it work well, and focus on what has worked well, and elevate it. Those things that have not worked well, let's see why they didn't work well and fix it, so that smallholder farmers like people like Olayinka and the rest can have access to finance, so that nobody will be asking you when you go to BOI. They will not be asking, are you in Lagos or you're not in Lagos? Because there's a guarantee. There's a guarantee system that one of my friends is here, Dennis. Maybe Dennis will share his experience. It's an opportunity for you, Dennis. I saw you on the attendance sheet. Like what Cross River State government is doing is to guarantee access to finance. They will serve as guarantee so that farmers and MSMEs will be able to access finance. Thank you very much.
Thanks so very much, Dr. Point. I need to hack Room Business School. Can we still take one or two questions, or maybe we can do this privately at the end of Sarah, if you are there, you need to speak to this.
Okay, we can just take one last question.
All right. Odofin Musiliu, you've been raising your hand for a very long time. Can you just make your question very snappy, please? If Odofin is not ready, maybe Topa Mayaki can actually ask his question. All right. Emmanuel asks a question on the chat box. Please, what is the size of the income that one can successfully start up agribusiness in a small scale? Another question from Oladeru, is there any link you can share for agribusiness grants? Doctor, I don't know if you can quickly speak to these two questions. Thank you, sir.
Yes, as for the size, there's no size, there's no limit. It depends on your business plan. It depends on the data that you gathered. So there's nothing like the size must be this, the size must be that. It depends on the size of your farm. It depends on the scope. That was why I mentioned in my presentation, you must subject your business plan into different scenarios. If you do your business plan, if you look at the loan, the volume of loan that you need is huge. You can subject it to different scenarios such that it's within a comfortable limit. So there's no size. It depends on the data that you collect from your feasibility study that will inform the design of your business plan. As for the link, the person that asked that question, I've put down my contact. Once you share with me, once you send me an email, if there is opportunity, I will connect you with that accordingly. Thank you very much.
Perfect. Thank you very much, Doctor, for opening your line so that people can actually reach out to you. Thanks so much for the questions and answer section. This particular moment, I'm going to hand over the microphone to Timothy on the value proposition. Timothy, if you are ready, over to you. Thank you. Hello, Timothy. Sarah, if you are there, can you talk to Timothy? Otherwise, we go to the very next step, which could be the closing remark.
Can you hear me, sir?
Yes, I can hear you, please.
Hello, Mr. Festus, can you hear me?
I can hear you clearly. Hello?
Okay. Okay, you can hear me?
Yeah, you can hear you.
Yes, I can hear you.
Okay. I think Mr. Timothy could not. Okay, can we just give him a little seconds? I think he's trying to join in again. Just a minute. Okay. So pending the time he's joining in, if I think we had some people that were still interested in asking questions. Okay, so I got muted. If we still have people that are interested in asking questions, maybe we can just take that while Mr. Tim is trying to come up for the value proposition. Yeah.
We still have Odofi Musiliu and Topa Mayaki. Sorry the way I pronounce your name. You can still ask your questions. I've requested you do earlier on, but it seems maybe you're not on or something. Any one of you can actually ask any question. Thank you. Someone is asking if our doctor can share the materials of the seminar.
Okay, we are going to share that on the e-research platform once this session is done.
Exactly.
Perfect.
Yeah, we'll share that on the e-research platform. All right, Mr. Timothy, since we don't have any question, Mr. Timothy has not been able to join. So we'll just wrap it up from here. So thank you so much, Doctor. Thank you so much, Mr. Festus, for this session. Thank you for joining. Doctor, it was really an insightful session. Thank you so much for sharing your knowledge, your wealth of knowledge in the agribusiness industry with us. Thank you so much, sir. We appreciate, and thank you for honoring our invitation also, as always. Thank you, sir. Mr. Festus, thank you for moderating today's session. We are glad to have you here. And thank you everyone for joining the session. You can follow up with Dr. Charles on LinkedIn. He's on LinkedIn as Charles Inyagbe. You can follow up, connect with him on LinkedIn. For those who also have questions or who are looking to, have more interactions with him, I'm sure that he'll be open to that. Can connect with him on LinkedIn. And Mr. Festus is also on LinkedIn as Ademola Festus Itayo. You can follow him up also on LinkedIn, connect with him on LinkedIn, and take up further conversations from there. So I think that will be all. For those asking for the slides, I would share the link to, I would be sharing the link to the e-research platform that will be uploaded after the session. So you can go to the platform to get the slides for this session. All right, that'll be all for my end. Thank you all for joining again. Thank you for joining today's session. We look forward to having you in subsequent sessions. So we have dropped the, we want to get your feedback for this session. We have the survey. The survey has been launched. For those who are yet to also sign in their attendance, you can do that. And also do well to give your feedback for this session on the survey that was launched. And also for the recently concluded career fair, we also shared some survey. We'll be glad to have your responses also. All right, that'll be all for today. Call it today. Do have a wonderful day, everyone. Thank you, Doctor. Have a wonderful
Thanks, everyone.
evening
Thanks,
and
everyone.
a great weekend, everyone. Bye for now.